I think this could be a bit of a fiery topic here, and it could be an interesting podcast as we break down our all NBA first, second, and third teams. And I think consensus for all, I don't know, commentators. Is that what we are? Commentators here, critics. There's a lot of deserving names this year. A lot of players that obviously put up career stats. Especially in the scoring categories. And some players that maybe their teams didn't win as many games as they could have or should have, that, really makes it a bit tricky to consider where they should, if they even make one of these all NBA teams. So I'm keen to sort of hear your list. Shoot me your 15 names and let's have a look at them.
So I'll shoot you the first five for my all-team first NBA, and what I'll do is I'll steer into, I guess, the more controversial picks. So I'm going to go with the center position. I'm going to go with Embiid. All right. So a lot of people are going to throw this up and say it's Jokic or Embiid, but I'm going to go with Embiid is probably winning the MVP. And if the MVP is not on the first team All NBA, I don't really understand what we're doing. So that's really my solo logic on that. He also led the league in scoring. Philly has the number two record. I'm pretty sure it is better than Denver. I do not have them up in front of me. I will get them now. But I just feel confident with that. I think that with that record of 54 and 28 versus Jokic's 53 and 29, it is really a coin flip, but you've got to pick one, and that's who I'm picking. We're going to go with the forwards. We've got Giannis, obviously leading his team to the best record. I don't think his case needs to be proven too much. Going to be a runner-up in the MVP at third, but still very good. Then it already starts to get tricky. So I'm going with another forward. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. He had that hot start. He kind of petered out a little bit, but the Celtics again, they're top three, and they are very much there because of him. And now it's the guards, and you probably had the same issue with the guards, but there's all-star, superstar caliber guards, and then there's their record, and they don't really correlate a lot of the time. And I'm probably leaning this year into picking All NBA as winners, or at least people rewarded for playing well on winning teams. So my first guard is going to be Steph Curry. Missed a lot of games, but when he does play, clearly is playing at a superstar level and clearly keeping the Warriors in relevancy and contention. And I think that needs to be rewarded because if he had played more games without injury, I think his case is cemented opposed to it being a little bit debatable. And this one might shock some people, but I'm going to go with Donovan Mitchell as my other starting guard. I feel like getting traded to the Cavs, really elevating them from being like a fun, young, promising team to, oh, they're like legit scoring 71 this season. Uh, I feel very strong about Donovan Mitchell in the first team All NBA.
I led into this whole podcast that we might have some real fiery conversations, and then you gave me exactly the same five picks that I had. So I guess that really took a bit of wind out of our sails to a certain extent. I don't know. We're definitely on the same page there. Maybe I guess we talk about basketball every week, and we definitely do reward team success. I think that's clearly an area where this year there were a lot of guards that put up great numbers, but how much of the impact was it on team success? And I think that's where I made a sort of a last minute decision to slide Steph Curry into that first team. Whether he actually wins it, or sorry, actually whether he makes the first team in real life, that might be a whole nother question, and how all the other experts sort of see his case for first NBA team, all NBA team. But look, I've got him also in the first team. Donovan Mitchell, like you said, had a great season here. Got the Cavs into the fourth spot, I think, in the East here, and really turned them around at that point. Tatum, I don't think is as contentious as a pick as you sort of made it out to be. I think it's pretty obvious he's the number one option in Boston, and Boston are a top two team here in the East. So, and then Giannis and Embiid, we've talked about them all year round. They're pretty much locks, I think, into the first team. I'd be shocked if somehow they didn't make the first team. So I don't know. Onto the second team.
Yeah, so obviously, we'll do the spoiler one now. Jokic clearly makes second team. He's going to either win the MVP or be the runner-up, but clearly the most deserving in that position. And then we go to, I guess, our forwards. Um, I think the one theme out of all the All NBA players this season is if that rule about 65 games came into effect, I don't know what these teams look like at all because picking people superstar impact with winning records or at least impactful records a lot harder when you factor in the games missed. So I've went with Jimmy Butler, which, obviously has willed the Miami Heat back into the playoffs and clearly a big part of any success they could have. And I've also went with Kawhi Leonard, the man who I proclaimed would not be finishing out the season due to an early retirement. Very Kawhi-esque, came back, been very quiet, but been averaging fantastic numbers and having real impact on the Clippers. I think it's a disappointing season for the Clippers based off where it started, but you do wonder if people's expectations of them was maybe a little bit unrealistic, considering that Paul George does sit a fair bit, and so does Kawhi. Um, then with the guards, I'm going to go with De'Aaron Fox. I feel like the Sacramento Kings getting to that level, him being in consideration for the new Clutch Player Award that I feel like just kind of crept up on all of us, but maybe I'm a bad NBA fan. And then I go with Luka Doncic, which is a real hard one here because he's played a fantastic season, but obviously flamed out right at the end. Um, so you might have someone different in this spot, so I'm curious.
Who's your second guard? Luca and
De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, this is where it did get a bit tricky. Um, you know, I think let's start with the obvious one. Yeah, Jokic is definitely a second team. If he doesn't make the first team, yeah, Jokic is a lock for the second team. Again, having a great year. So it's almost disappointing he didn't average a triple double. I think it'd be a nice little achievement for him to put under his belt there, but maybe next year. With the forwards here, I think you went Jimmy Butler, yeah, and I looked at his case there and Kawhi, yeah, Jimmy and Kawhi, and I think they're interesting picks. They are not my picks. We got something different here, and I guess I think again, firstly, my first forward here is Domantas Sabonis. I think he's had a great year at the Kings here. Big reason why they playing playoffs again, and got the home court as well in that sort of situation. So he's been averaging a double all year. Led the league, I think, in rebounds as well. So I got him locked in the second team. My second forward here is like I was playing a bunch of names here, and I think again you did allude to that 65 game threshold, isn't it, that they're looking to implement?
Yep.
Which Kawhi didn't meet. I guess I'm curious. I'm going to bring it right now. Did Jimmy Butler meet the threshold? Like, does he ever meet that threshold?
No.
Let me just quickly click on this. I'm assuming that they didn't, and I think that's a key part that in part why they did bring in such a sort of, I don't know, a rule that they're looking to put into place for candidates in these awards. And let's bring it up. What Butler get? 64. 64. What a bummer for him. So look, obviously a player I went for here, he actually clocked 79 games this year. So pretty reliable, basically missed 3 games all year, and was part of that team that really, again, sort of rocketed up at the East a little bit here. Mitchell was a big part of it. He was sort of rewarded with first team selection more likely than not. But I've got Evan Mobley as a second forward here in the second team. His stats aren't eye-popping, but again, his impact, his availability, and again, the Cavs sort of success, I think, has him sort of deserving of that second team selection. My guards here, I got De'Aaron Fox. I think, again, if he's got to make an All-NBA team, I think, this year. One of these 3 teams has got to be, he's got his name alongside it. So De'Aaron Fox, with Sabonis, huge success story for the Kings so far. So, and my second guard here is SGA. Again, the Thunder made the play-in, and the Mavs did not. So I think that's a tough part. Yeah, and obviously that means I haven't put Luka on a team yet. But SGA averaged 30 plus this year, got the Thunder into the play-in, won a game as well. I think he lands in the second team here on my list.
I don't really have too much to contest with it, but I am going to pull the infamous. I just checked Basketball Reference, and Domantas Sabonis is listed as a center for for this season. And most of his power forward minutes, at least in his career, actually came due to teaming up with Miles Turner. So he makes my third All NBA team because Sabonis definitely needs to be recognized for what he's doing. Um, I think earlier in the season you put him as an MVP candidate, and now that the ladders are official, he did make the top 10 for a lot of people. So you were onto something with that, and it's obviously going to get rewarded as a third All Team NBA center. And maybe a debate for another time, but it does prompt you. You wanted to put him in the second team, and I think he's very deserving. But it's the position lock for me that prevented him from taking a forward spot. And is he one of the best 10 players in the league? Probably, but according to All NBA, he's going to make that third tier of the 11 to 15. So debate for another day, I'm sure. Forwards, I'm going to go with Lauri Markkanen. He never dropped the 50 piece that I was hoping for, but he had his first All-Star game, probably the most improved player. Really, really just probably lived up to the potential. And now we just hope that it continues for seasons to come. And, Utah will be feeling really good if that was the case. I'm going to go with Julius Randle as my other forward here. I think he made All NBA for a relatively similar season a couple of years back, and he's clearly had a bounce back. The Knicks are in contention yet again. We know that Bronson is a big part of that culture, but the reality is he has to also perform at that level, and he has. He's produced. And it's also probably a little bit indicative of the issue with picking people this season. Um, and they're going to go on my two guards. So Shea made my third team, and you were totally right. He did make the play-in, and Luka did not. I think the difference is that they got to play one extra game of relevance because they got blown out today, and Luka did not. Um, I think it's a coin flip. You could make a case and say that Luka's slightly better or Shea's slightly better. I think the voters will pick that. Luka had some amazing moments this season. Would we truly blame him for the lack of success for the Mavs? Maybe, maybe not. And then my last spot, which is my last guard, is going to Damian Lillard, which is a hard one because he was way out of playoff contention. And irrelevant of how we all feel about Trae Young, he could probably be in consideration for this spot, or even Jalen Brunson if you're going on impactful winning and narrative. But Damian Lillard, averaged over 30, also had a 71 piece, clearly kept Portland in the conversation for an extended period of time until they decided to shut him down a couple of weeks ago.
Who was your second forward? Sorry, in the 13th?
Yeah, it gets a bit tricky with this. I feel like I need to have like flashcards. So I had Lauri
Randall and
Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen. Lauri, that's why I didn't pick it. Who the hell would pick Lauri Markkanen in an all NBA team after all the other names you got to choose from? We're going to come back to this. Let me start with the
All right.
Sabonis take here. All right. You're basically saying that Sabonis is not a forward. Okay. And I just want to let's be clear. We'll put it on the recording here that if you pull up ESPN, he's listed as a power forward. Okay. And I think that it is a tricky multi-positional sort of league now. I know some players have qualifications for all different spots on the floor. I guess it'd be nice if we were given the official list to maybe work from that. These are the official, qualifications for each player and what spots they can be selected for. I guess maybe that's online somewhere. I'm sure we could Google it perhaps. But as far as I'm concerned, Sabonis is a forward center and therefore can be either picked as a forward or center. Which is, it's like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, I think, is more often considered a guard instead of a forward. But obviously, he does play the three at times too. So I guess he does qualify as a guard or a forward. So who knows, yeah. So I guess let's start with let's start with Jimmy Butler. I've got him in my third team. You obviously got him in your second team. I do think he is deserving of a nod in an All NBA team. He was actually more reliable. It felt like this year was more reliable than some other years, and it was probably important for the Heat to have him there to sort of really, they're really sort of up and down all year. They never really got going. Will they get going in the playoffs? Who knows? Probably not, considering I picked them as a sweep. But I think Jimmy Butler though was a big part of them being able to at least get into the play-in and into the playoffs now sort of situation. My other forward spot here, I'm surprised you didn't go with him, but hey, that's all right. I'm going with KD. I think KD obviously had a great year this year. Again, contentious how many games he did ultimately play. But you went with Kawhi, and Kawhi really didn't play that many games either in that sort of sense. So I think KD has a much more impactful game than say Kawhi, and I think he should be in the third team at least. This year. In the last big man here as a center position, I've got Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously, big man there at the Grizzlies. Grizzlies had a finished second in the West, so and he was a big part of that. He might be Defensive Player of the Year as well. So I think he's definitely, again, it was sort of like who else would you slide into that center spot? It was a little bit. Yeah, it's probably the spot that had the least number of candidates after sort of Giannis and Embiid in that. Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic in that sort of sense. So I guess I've got Jaren Jackson Jr. in that spot there, which leaves my two guards here. Two different picks to you. Obviously, I had SJ in the second team here, but I'm going with Jalen Brunson. I have no idea why you picked Randall. We covered this at the All-Star break. The success that Knicks have had is based upon Brunson's play, not Randall's. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to tell everybody that till the Knicks get eliminated. Okay, so Julius Randle to me is not the key factor here. Why the Knicks made the playoffs this year? It's Jalen Brunson, and I think he should be rewarded. He didn't make the All-Star team, so let's at least get him into the third All-NBA team. So I got Brunson there. And my last pick here is, and I pulled up his stats. 58 games. Okay, so he played more games than Kawhi. Played a few less games than Jimmy Butler. Averaged 21. All right, 10.7 assists a game, 6 rebounds. Those stats are nothing to sneeze at. His team finished third in the East here. I've got James Harden as a other guard here in the third All NBA team. Clearly, I have prioritized winning and team success over, say, Lillard, over Doncic. You can beat me up here. I haven't picked Doncic in any of these teams here, but his team did not make the play-in. And I think there are other names that are more deserving, not just simply based upon pure stats. And I think that's why this year it's been such a hard pick to pick these 15 names.
Yeah, it really drops off, I think, after the first 5, because you could mix them everywhere. So KD got to 49 games, Kawhi did 52. KD obviously had that impressive 55, 50, and 90 split, or 40 split. It was, quite remarkable. Obviously went on that tear before the MCL sprain in Brooklyn, and maybe if he's healthy, they don't blow it up yet. It's hard to say. I think that's a flip of the coin, I think, on that one. Obviously, you've snubbed Markkanen and what he's been able to pull off with, averages of about 24 and 8
but
on
the
a
Jazz
Utah team that wasn't contention.
didn't make the play-in.
Utah, a team that was right in contention. But I think the big conversation here is Dallas, obviously, with the investigation and the subsequent fine, they didn't want Luka to be in the play-in, right? It wasn't a Luka didn't play well enough to get there. It was a team decision to shut him down. And you look at the Portland Trailblazers, they shut Lillard down. It wasn't him being shut down. You could even make a case and say OKC wins one playing game, but they still end up back in the lottery, so that nothing's really different and they get a little bit of experience. It's, there's some elements to this. I guess if we led into some more players as well, the Chicago Bulls went on that late surge. Neither of their two players got a consideration. Pascal Siakam obviously doesn't get any mention as well from Toronto. Trae Young gets snubbed by both of us. I think the 65 games is probably going to help us have a line in the sand in the future. And it will be interesting to see what happens when players play 60 games. And now I'm projecting forward, so apologies if you want to keep dwelling on my picks. But, if a player plays 60 games next season, and it's such a standout case, like, holy moly, they are clearly deserving of All NBA. Is that line in the sand going to be, nope, sorry, it's going to go to a guy with 10 less points because he made the games and he's on a winning team? It's probably the thing that I debated. I went for superstars, I think, in my third team because winning was a lot harder to find there, and it was really only at the top that I prioritized it.
I think again, there's probably clearly a rule sheet of here, criteria to follow to make these picks, and we weren't handed out on our desk or anything like that. So we've used a bit of our own agenda initiative how we made these picks. look, I think in reality, Lillard and Doncic are probably going to get a nod. I think, their stats were off the charts this year, 30 plus points a game. How can they get snubbed from an all NBA team? They're superstars, yeah. They're highly, high quality superstars in this league that has superstars on every team now. Okay, but I guess I wouldn't vote that way. And I think at the end of the day, obviously, these all NBA teams, it's a voting process, and I guess it's a matter of how many people vote in a certain direction. And I think you're probably going to go maybe the popular route where more people are going to vote these superstar names into an all NBA team. But I personally think that, if my vote did count, that I clearly would be voting in a slightly different way on how or who should be deserving of a nod here. And yeah, look, I guess that's what makes it interesting and fun, isn't it?
Yo, this is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.